Welcome back, everyone, to my journey into making comics. This is the fourth episode, and it's about the conceptual phase. Now, as you've noticed, we are not in the usual space of my office. I've decided to shoot some of this in a local forest that I like to visit from time to time. The reason being is because the conceptual phase happens not only inside the office, but it can happen anywhere, right? The conceptual phase is all about thinking, about getting ideas, and about writing these down. Now, a lot of the ideas that people get while they're on their journey to making comics can happen anywhere, such as in a bus, in a forest like where I am right now, or just when you're talking with your friends. So, what do you say we dive right in and have a look at the next 5 steps? Alright, so the very first thing that I did was to find a topic and theme to talk about. Now, for me, the one thing that I really wanted to discuss in immersion, for example, was the transition of humanity within technology within the next 50 years from now. I thought that was very interesting with the rise of artificial intelligence and robotics, how we manipulate our genes and all that stuff. I think it would create a very different world than the one that we're living in today. So that's, for example, one of the themes that I really liked. For Reset Access Denied, it's a bit more social political, where it touches upon the inequalities between the rich and the poor, and it shows a bit of that sentiment of rebellion versus the more upper elite that control the situation. So these are the topics that I liked. Now, for you got to start asking yourself, what are the things that you like to talk about when you're going to make a comic? Reason being is because when you're working on a comic, the important thing is to make a decision on what it is that you like to talk about when you're going to make a comic. When you're making a comic, you're going to do that for a long time. It's going to take you a long time to do the pages, to do the writing, so it's best to talk about something that you're really, really passionate about. Alright, so the next step being to do some research on the chosen topics. Well, for that, what I'm going to do is, you've got the camera right here that I'm talking to, but at the same time I'm recording my screen, which is right in front of me. So right now I'm going to focus on the screen and show you, for example, the type of things that I've done or how I did my research into, for example, immersion or Reset Access Denied. So right here, you'll be able to see how for example, in a place like TED, the website TED.com, it's a great place where you can find brand awesome, cool ideas. Okay, so TED is really awesome for this. For example, as soon as you come in my case, for example, I type in artificial intelligence, there we go. Then I run a search on it. I just go to the Artificial Intelligence 9 talks. And immediately right here, I will be able to see really interesting speeches on, artificial intelligence, for example, by Sam Harris, Ray Kurzweil, which is an awesome man with a lot of interesting knowledge, a whole bunch of stuff. Nick Bostrom, a very interesting man to research as well if you're going to look into these type of things and existential threats. So these type of things can be found on places like TED.com, right? Another place where it's a great place to look for ideas is YouTube itself. So in YouTube, for example, for Reset Access Denied, I did research on social political issues and the philosophy behind it to, get it more of a deeper story and more profound. And again, here in a last example, what I used, for example, for not for Reset, but for immersion, is the futuretimeline.net. This is a really cool website, for example, where you can look at the expected events or the events that are expected to happen within time. So the organizers of this website have done a very good job at archiving things based on current articles and stuff like that. It's very fun, and it helps you create a bit of a a timeline for future events, so quite useful for immersion, obviously. Now, it's not only done in on a computer or on a tablet. I actually like to read a lot of books, and that is another wonderful way to do a lot of research. And I'll show you, for example, some of the books that I had. Well, I do have books like these from National Geographic. This one is in Spanish now, about revolution, so it says Grandes Revoluciones, and basically discusses revolutions, public revolution. I mean, the revolution of people in different times and space. And these type of magazines contain a wealth of information for that. Also, for immersion, I had stuff like, I needed to do some more research on DNA and gene manipulation and stuff like that. So, it's always good to pick up stuff like this, and they're quite basic. It doesn't have to be like an article that was written by Harvard Medical or anything. It's just information that lets you be grounded in the matter that you're going to be talking about. Doing research, for your topics is extremely important, because it will allow you for your, for the story that you're creating, for the world that you're creating, to be believable, to be, well grounded. And I think that is crucial. I think that is very important for creating really deep stories and interesting comics. All right, so the third step for me was to think about the characters that were going to move the content, the topics, the themes that I'd researched, these forward. So how was it that I was going to translate all that information and put it into a story where there is a clear beginning, a middle, and an end? At the end of the day, having all that information is important, but upon itself, it's nothing more than just a collection of data. You might as well write a book. What differentiates it from actually turning into a comic is the characters itself. So you find a set of characters and you start putting them in the right places. Give them a specific theme to focus on, and obviously the overall theme where they all connect as one. So that is extremely important. Think about the personality traits of this character, the message that you want to bring across, all these type of things. And you should write them down in different, like either on a notepad or on a tablet, on a computer, all these type of things. What I did, I created character profiles. So these were for every character, like a whole bunch of information, like their age, background on where they were born, a bit of history about their parents, and all that type of stuff. Now it depends on how complicated your project is. Again, if it's a simple comedy project where it's just, a few sketches, you don't need to go that deep. But if it's like a serious story where you really want to show progression in the character and depth, then in my case, it was very useful to have this information. And also maybe the type of things that they can carry forward to other characters if there are interaction between them. Like, for example, love stories or revenge type of scenarios, all that type of stuff. So these are the things that are food for thought for character development. Alright, so we are back in the office now because, as you've noticed, all that noise in the background in the park, it started to rain. Now, we're going to start discussing the part on organizing your thoughts, which is the fourth step. And for that, again, we're going to go back and forth with the screen that I have here. So let me guide you right to the screen. And we're going to start looking at an example that I have from Immersion, a short story that I'm working on that is also not out yet. You can see here that I've got characters, conflict, story. I'm not going to open up these ones because when I press on a plus, then more information gets shown, but that's the part that I don't want to show just yet. But I can go into the topics, for example. So here, if I click on topics, you can start seeing here that these are the topics that will be touched upon within this short story. So, for example, transition towards the age of immersion, people's addiction to simulated experiences, modern worldwide escapism from the grim political climate of the future, which is a corporate-controlled world. All these little things, they're like little topics, mini topics, on a bigger scale. And for example, if we go on people's addiction to simulated experiences, if I click on that, there's more different thoughts that I've got. Like for example, the different kinds of simulated experiences and their levels of complexity. So research on that. The important changes in how people feed themselves during hour-long sessions of simulated experiences. That's another thing that I was thinking about. And then legal simulated experiences versus illegal ones. Stuff like that. Basically in simple words, this is basically a mind mapping tool, and that's what helps you put your thoughts together into one individual, like a web of ideas that are all interconnected, as you can see here. Just by clicking minus, they all go back to their original state. Now for this I used something called iThoughts X. But there are others, like I'm trying to show here. So Xmind is a very popular one. And you've got another couple of free ones. Even if you go on the App Store or the Play Store with Samsung tablets, you'll find many different tools to do mind mapping for you. Here, Xmind is just one of them. And it's free, or it was free. Now the Pro is apparently you have to pay for it. The Xmind Zen, you can download the public beta for now. But I don't know if they're going to make it free or if they're going to turn that into a payment plan as well. Either way, the ones that I have, the Xmind 8, that one is free and it works very well. So organizing your thoughts, super important, because it's what helps you prepare yourself for the next step, which is to test all these concepts that you've got. Alright, so here we are for the last step, which is to test your concepts, make sure that all your ideas and all that matter that you've been researching actually makes sense. Now, what I used for that, and there are many ways of doing this, okay, so I want to stress this, that there's not only one way of doing this, but I'm only sharing with you my experience, and what really helped me is this particular book here, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. So I touched upon it a little bit in the previous video, and for the next few steps which dive over into the development phase, which is in the next video, I will also be mentioning a couple things from this book, because it really is, for me at least, it has been detrimental into finding the right way of telling a story. And even though this book is specifically for screenwriting, for Hollywood scripts, it really does translate very well into all kinds of storytelling mediums, whether it's like a comic book or any other type of animation, cartoons or stuff like that. It really does work. So what I mean by testing your concepts, well, in this book and also in real life, actually, imagine that you are sitting at home and you're about to choose a movie with your partner or with your family, and you want to, often that question arises of like, okay, well, what's the movie about? Okay, so that's where your logline or one-liner becomes very useful. And what I mean by one-liner or logline, and this is also explained in this book, is, for example, your story told in one sentence, basically in one sentence saying what this is about. So I'll give you some examples straight from the book. So you have, for example, the following. Okay, so a newly married couple must spend Christmas Day at each of their 4 divorced parents' homes. Now this is 4 Christmases. A risk-averse teacher plans on marrying his dream girl, but must first accompany his overprotective future brother-in-law, a cop, on a ride along from hell. That is, ride along. And obviously I also have my one-liner, which was read in the previous video. I'll read it one more time so you guys see it, in case you've missed it there. I've got it on the screen. That's from Immersion, not the short story, but the longer one that I've been working on for a long time. It's in a not too distant future. Technology skeptic Detective Logan is forced to immerse himself into a maze of virtual worlds in order to capture a mysterious serial killer. So your logline, or one-liner as it's also called, is basically your checkpoint. That's your one sentence that basically contains the information about your protagonist. It contains information about, your antagonist in my case, because there's a mysterious serial killer. It contains information about the journey that your protagonist is going to make. Often stories are told, well, not often, always, or practically almost always, stories are told from the perspective of your characters, from your protagonist, that carries the story forward, and obviously with the help of other characters. So this book, Save the Cat, will help you create that one-liner, that one line, that log line that is so important for you to check if what you're saying makes sense. If all this research, all this story, all this like ideas, all these ideas, if all that actually adds up. So there you go. That basically concludes the 4th episode of my journey into making comics. I hope you like this type of content. If you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can stay up to date with future episodes. And there you have it. Thanks for stopping by, guys. If you got any ideas on how you guys create and cultivate your concepts, your ideas, what do you do, for example, during your personal conceptual phase, I would be very interested in knowing. You can drop me a comment in the comments below. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.